If you want to see how we have gone from having classic wooden doors to this much more modern result, how we have fixed the damage they had, how we have painted them cheaply and changed the classic gold of the metal parts, don't miss the following video. The first thing we did was look for an inexpensive gun on Amazon, which was around $40 for these that do not need a compressor, although since we had a gift voucher from a DIY store, we ended up buying this one from here that in the end gave us very good results. We are going to do a brief unboxing and explain the parts of the gun that is shaped like a hairdryer, and works similarly, since it blows air that mixes with the paint.
Here's the container for the paint supplies.
The trigger that, once pressed, releases the spray mechanism. The valve that regulates.
The mixture of air, paint. The switch that turns it on and off.
A nozzle that makes the paint jet horizontal or vertical.
A filter with a sponge that will have to be washed.
And a funnel, which serves for calculate the density according to the type of paint.
Finally, a needle to clean the mouthpiece and nooks. We thoroughly prepared the painting area. In our case, it was the garage. We sealed everything with plastic bags, effectively creating a very cool torture room.
The next thing was to lower 2mm
Medium height A.
the doors since underneath.
There's going to be a vinyl floor.
I made the decision to carefully cut them with a specialized cutter, and so to ensure my doors wouldn't splinter. After that, I did tie them to make them good. Once this was done, we removed all the screws and metal parts from the doors. Now we will carefully sand down the visible screw marks because the new polished handles won't fit properly otherwise.
And once this is done,
Let's fill it with putty. I prepared this one with sawdust, very thin and carpenter's tale. For instance, right here, we notice a section that has deteriorated. And after sanding it down thoroughly, we proceed to apply the putty.
and once he has,
Dried, we sand again. I made up my mind to give this name brand white farmhouse a try as well. You have to stir it well before you use it, and it also worked pretty well, although it gave me the impression that it reduced a little more volume than the homemade one. Here, I want to show how.
I repaired this underside of the door.
the first thing I did was fix the
Usable wood so you don't have to fill so much with putty. For this I made holes, guyed, and then placed.
2 small screws that fixed the wood. Later, I applied more chair to the areas that needed filling. Alder using the spatula and hope they dry thoroughly.
Well, it's sanding time.
Let's try to do it.
Before the rain comes. Which looks pretty menacing.
Now, I sand both the most seated areas and also the entire door so that the primer then grips well.
Well, the storm threatens and the rain is starting to pour heavily.
So it's time to stop. Taking advantage of the fact that the rain doesn't stop, I'm going to buy a mask to paint.
If it's for spray painting, you have to. Make sure it bears the logo of the
Aerosol gun, that particular one is not available.
And this one, for example, yes. Here to the left.
Let's do the test with this primer that tells us that it stops.
Gun has to be
Dissolved at 5%.
We regulate with this valve, the mixture of air and paint.
And now that we have it,
Adjusted the gun.
with the protective gear, all right, we'll begin the process of priming the door now. While the primer is drying, let's take the time to thoroughly clean the gun.
To do this, we first remove the primer that remains inside by pressing the trigger. We also emptied what we had left in the canister and then disassembled the suction tube and parts inside. We clarified them well.
Soap and water. And lastly,
We filled a tank with water,
and
soap, and we emptied it like we were painting, and then the same.
but with clean water to clear everything up.
After the drying period is over, let's go.
See in detail how the first hand turned out. Overall, very good.
But we can clearly observe that you require an additional layer of primer.
We will thoroughly clean all screws, hinges, and metal parts using the dishwasher, baking soda, and vinegar to maximize drying times. Then paint them black and make them contrast well with the doors.
For this,
In a suitable container, we put these 3 products, and after approximately 10
minutes allowing them to react.
We scrub and rinse with water. Then we'll let them dry well.
Once they're completely dry,
We'll place them on top of a cardboard.
And we're going to paint them with
A black spray paint.
Observing the outcome here, we find that the hinges, screws, and all other metal components have performed exceptionally well.
Now let's start.
apply paint to
Doors, the process is the
Same as for primer, varying the amount of water to be diluted.
For this, we will help each other.
From the funnel that comes with the gun.
We've already given him the first one.
hand, and when the happy time passes,
After drying, we will give you the second.
when we have them painted, we will place the screws and metal parts that we have painted before. We have little left to finish, and now we place the handles that we have purchased in black.
And of a much more modern style than those that existed.
Well, this is it. We removed the papers, protectors, on the doors that had glass.
And we see the before and the
Later.
If you like the video, I hope you like it and subscribe to the channel. And the comments are open for any question you want to ask me.
warm regards and looking forward to seeing you in the next video.